Mary had a little lamb.
The fault. We believe that all men are created equal.
To the magnificent mosaic that is America.
From radio beacon to radio beacon. I have a dream. Change has come to America.
Believe me.
Help is on the way.
Knock, knock. Who's there?
It's a figment of your imagination.
Randi Rhodes Show.
Turn up your mind.
The Supreme Court apparently striking down a ban on bump stocks. Do we have that correct? Paula, give us the latest.
That is exactly right, Jim. This has been one of the most closely watched cases of the Supreme Court term, and it's another example of the High Court siding with gun rights groups. Now, we're still going through this opinion, but here the Supreme Court has struck down a federal ban on bump stocks. Now, this was approved by former President Trump, and again, it's the latest example, too, of the court sort of limiting the power of federal agencies to act on their own. Now, this is one of a few different cases related to gun rights that we are watching. We're still working our way through this Thomas opinion, but this was originally a challenge from a gun store owner to the classification of bump stocks as machine guns. And the Supreme Court, again, this is one of the biggest cases that they've been examining, and here they have struck down this federal ban.
Okay, bump stocks are back, everybody. Bump stock. For mass murderers, now's your time to shine. Oh God, this is very. Listen. I don't know where do you start. Okay, so I just want you to understand what this really, really was about. First of all, this was a Koch brothers funded case. Keep that in mind the whole time. Okay. A Koch brothers funded case. Now, why do the Koch brothers care about gun rights, or why do the Koch brothers care about bump stocks? Do Koch brothers industries or Koch industries, do they manufacture guns? No. Do they manufacture bump stocks? No. Do they have anything to do with gun manufacturing or the gun industry? Not that I'm aware of, no. So why would they bring this case? And they did, okay? The plaintiff in this case is a guy named Michael Cargill. Michael Cargill is a gun shop owner in Texas, and he was so upset that he could not sell bump stocks to his loyal clientele. Now, this is what the case was about. It was about his complaint. Now, if I'm a gun owner or a gun shop owner in Florida, in Texas, in New York, whatever, and I'm upset because I can't sell a bump stock or any part for, an accessory for a gun. Does the Supreme Court take my case? No. No, they don't. They took this case because the Koch brothers brought this case, and the financial ties to the group called the New Civil Liberties Alliance is funded by the Koch brothers, and that's who brought this case. Okay, so what do the Koch brothers want with the Supreme Court on guns? Really, not much of anything except this. The Koch brothers want to weaken agencies in general, like the Department of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms, which is who actually decided that they had the authority to ban bump stocks. When Donald Trump, this is all in reaction to what happened in Las Vegas in 2017 at that country music concert, where, I don't know, hundreds of people, multiple hundreds of people were wounded, and 68, 86, some crazy amount of people were slaughtered because some guy in a hotel in Vegas on the Strip had dozens of long guns with bump stock attachments on them and just started spraying the whole Strip and killing people randomly. And so Donald Trump, in his administration, they were like, we have to do something, but we can't do anything on the Second Amendment. Can't do anything because I need that issue. I need to say I didn't touch the Second Amendment. How do we do that? So they all went to work and they said, all right, here's what we could do. There's an old law, 1934, has to do with, machine guns, has to do with banning machine guns. And bump stocks could fall under that particular ban in the way that machine guns are single action. Well, I shouldn't say single action guns, because single action means you pull the trigger, one thing happens, then you have to reload. But that bump stocks actually let you press and play, basically, right? You only press once. And, you're just shooting like a machine gun. And we could actually say bump stocks fall under that particular regulation and that the ATF has the authority to ban bump stocks under the 1934 ban on machine guns. That is what they did. And, of course, the Koch brothers saw this as a golden opportunity to make everything safe for business by limiting what any agency, including, the ATF, which is very unpopular with gun owners, okay, and go after them and start taking away the agency's ability to regulate anything on their own. Why would they care about regulating anything on their own inside of an agency? Well, 3 little letters for you, everybody. EPA, Environmental Protection Agency. See, that's something the Koch brothers care about. And that's a live case in front of the Supreme Court, something no one is really talking about. One of the cases that is still to be decided. Okay, we also have another gun case. The other gun case is about whether or not if you are a domestic abuser and you're under a restraining order to stay away from the person you can't stop beating or slapping or harming or, throwing against a wall, maybe you shouldn't have a gun. And the Supreme Court's hearing that case too. Like, wait a minute. That is a Second Amendment right that's being infringed on. They want to make the world safe for domestic abusers. But this is not that case. This is the case about the agency, the ATF. The other case that has to do with agencies is called the Chevron deference case, okay? That is a doctrine that was adopted by the court 40 years ago, 40. Now, when you look at the tough time that Clarence Thomas had writing this case about the ATF doesn't have the authority to regulate under the ban on machine guns, right? He had a tough time because he doesn't have expertise on guns. Phew. Only on, private air travel and hiding it. He's very good at doing that, but he has no expertise on guns. Phew. And so he was having a very tough time writing this majority decision, which is what he did today, wrote that majority decision, and couldn't figure out, like the single-use trigger and a single press on a trigger. And it was just such a straining thing to have to read Clarence Thomas talking about a trigger and a accessory for a trigger. Anyway, he did it because he's trying to set the pace, set the tone for overturning 40 years of precedent on something called the Chevron deference. The Chevron deference says that agencies have special expertise, that agencies like the EPA has environmental science background, like agencies like the ATF has background on alcohol, tobacco, and firearms, that their area of expertise would include bump stocks, would include firearms, would include accessories for firearms, would include, high-capacity magazines, etc., right? And they are trying to strip the agency's deference because of their expertise away from them, all in service of polluters, right? If you actually undo the 40-year precedent called the Chevron deference, which says that if the meaning of a statute that Congress passed is ambiguous, meaning there's some interpretation that might fly over here and another interpretation that might fly over there, and these are two opposing sides, and they're both trying to interpret the meaning of the legislation that Congress passed. So if there's ambiguity, if there's a question about what did Congress mean, you defer to the agency that has expertise in that particular area. So the EPA can issue water regulations. It can issue air pollution regulations. It can issue food and health safety regulations, like to keep us from getting listeria, to keep us from getting, salmonella. Do you know what I'm saying? Just about everything and anything is overseen by an agency with expertise in the arena. This is what they're trying to take away from agencies, the administrative state, or as Donald Trump calls it, the deep state. And they're going to leave us at the mercy of Supreme Court justices with political biases and no expertise in any of these areas.
All things Randy at randyrhodes.com.
Go for launch.
Speaking truth to power, the Randi Rhodes Show.
That's right. So in 2018, former President Donald Trump at the time, told the ATF that they could regulate bump stocks, which is this mechanism that allows guns to fire like machine guns, that they could regulate that and in some ways outlaw that. The Supreme Court is now saying that needs to be done away with, that bump stocks cannot be regulated as machine guns. This is a 6-3 decision. It's along party lines, which means that this really is taking away a gun regulation that was endorsed and passed under Donald Trump's presidency. So this is big news here in terms of we were watching a number of gun decisions, but in this case it's Garland v. Cargill. It's saying that bump stocks, which again is this mechanism that allows guns to fire more rounds than usual, that cannot be regulated as a machine gun. So that's taking away that regulation.
Oh, the pro-life people are so happy today. What? Yeah, I know. It's hard to hold those two thoughts in your head at the same time. I mean, it makes no sense. But it does if you understand why this happened. It's just to take away the ability for any agency at all, any agency, to regulate any damn thing, anything at all that businesses don't want regulated. And just so you could hold, that thought nice and firm in your head. Again, the upcoming cases have to do with the Chevron deference, meaning that an agency like the EPA can regulate clean air, clean water, air pollution, blah, blah, blah. And the Koch brothers will have none of it. And they brought this gun case too. Okay, they paid for it. But the other thing that you need to know that was decided today by SCOTUS, sounds like scrotum, because that's how appealing they've become. I'm just saying. And they decided that a Memphis Starbucks. What? Yeah. Okay. So you're telling me big business doesn't have any interest in any of these things. A Memphis Starbucks caught the attention of the Supreme Court. Right. No. Starbucks brought this case. Okay. This is a union busting case. So in a Memphis Starbucks, 7 employees were trying to organize for a union in Starbucks, in their coffee shop. And, what's his face from Starbucks was having none of that. Absolutely none of that. And so on a technicality, he decided he was going to bring a case for union busting to the Supreme Court. And they were like, oh, yeah, we're all about it. Oh, yeah, we'll take it. Yeah, oh, yeah, oh, yeah. And the little detail that they were able to bring it to the Supreme Court based on was that after hours in a Starbucks, the Memphis 7, they gave them a name, like a gang name. The Memphis 7 invited the news crews into the Starbucks, and they had no right to do so. No right to do that. And so that's how it made its way to the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court said you have no right to do that, and that your termination, they were fired. They were fired for organizing. They were fired, and that seems to be something you can't fire people for in this here country. We were just talking about that yesterday, about how Americans literally were calling me, screaming at me, that unions were terrible and it was a really bad thing, and that you should go into, Elon Musk's office by yourself and demand a Did you see what his pay package is? Did you see that? We're talking like $50 million. I don't know. The jury's out. It's like, but some people are reporting $45 billion, and others are saying $55 billion for his pay package. I don't know. I can't wrap my brain around any of that crap. Okay. So anyway, you're okay to go in and talk to a CEO like that about your measly pay without having collective bargaining behind you. You'll do fine. You'll do fine. So, people were calling me up going, don't you understand, if we had unions, the price of everything would go up and blah, blah, blah. And this, I'm like, but your spending power would also go up because non-union shops actually have to compete with union shops for wages, or else no one will work for a non-union shop. They will work for the union shop. So the more union shops you have in your neighborhood, the better chance you have to be, making union wages. So why are you riding on their coattails when you know that that's true? Why don't you, organize yourself? Because prices will go up. Yes, but your wages will go up faster than prices, and you're buying. Forget it. So we're back to that now. We're back to that. So he wanted to fire 7 of these Memphis workers for trying to build a union shop there in Memphis, right? And the only thing that he could, because they sued, can't fire us for trying to organize. He's, well, you invited the news media in, and you had no business doing that. And so they upheld the termination of those organizers. They said, yeah, you could fire them for that. So that's what the Supreme Court's dealing with. These are the, big problems of our time. And of course, it's really not about any of these things that it seems to be about, okay? It's not about pro-life, and it's not about guns, and it's not about a gun shop owner in Texas. It's not about bump stocks. It's about agencies. It's about having agencies be deferred to because they have areas of expertise inside the agency that the Supreme Court and judges in general do not have. They don't possess. They're lawyers. And if you know any... Okay, so that said, you understand what I'm saying about expertise by lawyers. No. Never defer to a lawyer about, your health or or atmosphere or pollution or dumping or cleaning up a mess. No, because they're going to go wherever the billable hours are. Okay, you know what I'm saying? So that's that. But this is all in an attempt to stop the agencies from carrying out congressional mandates and being able to say, we didn't really understand what they meant when they wrote this 4,000 page piece of legislation. That's what this is about. And I'm telling you, later on in this month, when we get the rest of the decisions, you're going to see that the rest of the decisions were a raft of taxation, a raft of business regulation, a raft of agency autonomy. It's all about business. It all is about business, big business, paying for these cases, okay, paying to get them to the Supreme Court. One of them is about a tax that was leveled against people who try to repatriate their money from overseas, a one-time tax, okay? They don't want to pay that tax. It's all about tax. They don't want to pay that tax, okay? And the other one is going to be the Chevron deference case where, they're going to say, no, you can't regulate anything at all. You just because you have an area of expertise that the court doesn't have. The court is the final word, and they get to say. So apparently Donald Trump, and also we still have the Donald Trump immunity case that we haven't heard, their answer about, which should be fascinating because according to them so far, Donald Trump can do anything he wants except rein in the lethal capacity to kill Americans. Yeah, that they say no to. But it isn't about the guns, and it's not about the bump stocks. I just want you to be really aware of what is actually happening at the Supreme Court, because it's not about you, and it's not about me, and it's not about Michael Cargill, the Texas gun shop owner. No, and it's just like it's not about pro-life. It's about power and control, and that power and control needs to be firmly in the hands of the very, very wealthy. Period. End of story. This is where we are. So they're going to report all day. Bump stocks. What do you mean? What do you mean? Well, that's what they mean.
Call in, connect. To speak to Randy, call 561-270-3844. 561-270-3844.
All right, everybody. So this is it. This is the last day of the Free Speech TV Summer Pledge Drive. And guess what? It's big. It's huge. It's bigger than both of us. It's actually as big as 4 people now. 4 people. What do I mean by that? Well, there's you who would give, let's say, $10. And then there are 3 frontline funders now. 3 of them that actually say, oh, you're giving $10? We'll join you. And now there's 4 of us giving $10. So your $10 becomes $40. You understand? That is called Triple Match Day, where you have 3 frontline funders matching whatever you give. So $100 is $400 for the benefit of the not-for-profit Free Speech TV. Okay, not to be confused with Alex Jones's company, which is getting liquidated today. Woohoo! But no, that is something that ends in the word systems, not .org. So we're an org, we're a not-for-profit, and if you call now, 877-378-8669, and you pledge any amount at all, it will be matched 3 times on Triple Match day. It's a great thing. It's our last day. Everybody who procrastinated and thought there'd be a bigger, better deal, this is the biggest, best deal that there is when it comes to supporting free speech TV. So please do something today. Do it. Do it. Okay, if you use the QR code, it'll take you to freespeech.org, and there you can make your donation as well. Text to 44321 the letters FSTV, and we'll send you a secure link, and you could do it that way as well. Thank you so much. I will be reminding you all throughout the day, because letting 3 frontline funders' money go to waste, it's not a thing I'm interested in. All right, so as we make our way through the day, let's just point out that Donald Trump is a rambling idiot, and everybody who wants to know it knows it. People who don't want to know it don't know it, nor do they want to know it, hence the confusion about which old guy is the best old guy for this old country. You know, Biden is really, for me, he's not just an authentic, decent character. He's not just an authentic dude. He's not just a fabulous dad that said at the G7 in front of the whole world, I mean, don't you wish? I wish for all of you that you had a dad like Joe Biden, if God forbid you ever got in trouble. God forbid. My dad was not like this, okay? My dad was definitely not like this. My dad would rattle a newspaper and we would all like jump out of his way. That was my dad, okay? He was that dad. He was the guy who cleared his throat and you went to your room. He didn't have to say anything. He just went, oh, you're out. Dad's having a moment, okay? And we had one bathroom, so, you know, guess who is king in that house? Okay. So I just wish for you a father like Biden, who went to the G7 and said in front of the whole world something that could have been embarrassing for a lot of people, a lot of parents, a lot of fathers. But he didn't. He said he's really proud of the man that Hunter Biden has become. And that he just loves his son. And the photo of the week, I guess, the newspapers, they have like This Week in Photos and stuff like that. And I always look at it. I like it a lot. But the photo of the week for me is Joe Biden hugging Hunter Biden after Hunter Biden was convicted and he went to Delaware to hold his son, to hold him, just to let him know, I'm still with you. I'm not going to pardon you. You did what you did. You're going to pay. And that's that. But I love you. I love you, like a son. So anyway, the difference between these two men is legion. It's legendary. There's a gap that is, as wide as the Mississippi River. Okay, there's just no comparison at all. Donald Trump had hardly any. I mean, one of his sons went a few days to his fraud trial where he was found guilty, 34 times of felonies. Okay. And, Hunter Biden, his mom, who, is his stepmom, legitimately his stepmom, but she loves him like a son. She is flying from the G7 to be in that court with him. And, I mean, it's just what a family. You talk about family values. Take a look at the Biden family and say, if I'm a family values person, you can't do any better than the Bidens. On the other hand, Donald Trump went to, I guess, the scene of the crime yesterday. He didn't have the nads to go to Congress. And I don't know if Congress invited him to come to Congress to go to Capitol Hill or not. But they went to the Capitol Hill Club, okay? They went to basically a restaurant. And they hosted Donald Trump. And in that meeting were also corporate titans of industry. Yeah. There were a lot of, CEOs who went to that thing. And some of them were like, sort of trying to see if they were still Trump-y or Trump-ish or Trump-adjacent or going to endorse Donald Trump or, fight the good fight for Donald Trump, whatever. And they were so stunned with his rambling bullcrap. They said there was no through line even, they know he starts a story and then he prides himself in doing what we do. You start a story, then you go off on tangents and you wrap it around and you bring it back. It's a talent, okay? It really is. It's a storytelling thing. Donald Trump always thought he had that, but he doesn't. He doesn't. He goes out on tangents. He never comes back. He never returns to, the through line. He doesn't have a through line anymore. He's just a rambling idiot at this point. And so he said a whole bunch of really weird things in these meetings. And one of the things he said was, it was so bad if you wanted to get elected by the Electoral College in this country, because, as you know, to get to 270, you need to win Michigan, Wisconsin, and Pennsylvania. And then you need to nail down a few other states that have, a couple of electoral votes. Like, the Republicans will get Texas and the Democrats will get California. Florida is always up for grabs, 29 electoral votes. I mean, that's a big one, right? And if the Florida women show up, I don't know. I think Florida may be in play, especially now that Ron DeSantis has outlawed climate change. You know that he outlawed climate change. So all of this flooding that's going on here, you hear that? Do you hear the dun, 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 dun? You know what that is? That's water hitting a bucket. There's a bucket behind me because our ceiling is leaking because Florida has been inundated with floodwaters. But Ron DeSantis outlawed climate change and vetoed a bill just like 2 days ago that would mitigate, that would actually spend $200 million toward flood remediation, preventing flooding. But since he vetoed it and outlawed, climate change, of course, it's not really happening. It's not. My ceiling isn't really leaking, and it hasn't been leaking for 3 days. None of this is happening. People aren't abandoning their cars in the middle of the street here in South Florida because there's like water up to your neck. That isn't happening because Ron DeSantis outlawed climate change. Okay, so it's that kind of insanity that's going on with Donald Trump. But as far as Wisconsin goes, Trump won it in 2016, lost it in 2020. That is a swing state, very swingy. That's why the Republicans decided to have their Republican National Convention in Wisconsin. Only problem is Donald Trump hates Milwaukee and has no problem saying so.
This is the Randi Rhodes Show. To speak with Randi, dial 561-270-3844. That's 561-270-3844.
With regard to the question regarding the family, I'm extremely proud of my son, Hunter. He has overcome an addiction. He's one of the brightest, most decent men I know. And I am satisfied that I'm not going to do anything. I said I'd abide by the jury decision, and I will do that, and I will not pardon him.
I mean, that's the kind of parent that we all should have. I mean, it's really breathtaking. So what's better for family values, this or this?
Can we just settle one thing once and for all here? Did President Trump, it's been attributed to him that he took a shot at Milwaukee. Did he do that?
No, I didn't hear it, and I was sitting right next to him. I
introduced him. This is Mike Johnson, the evangelical whiz kid who has managed to become Speaker of the House, even though nobody's ever heard of him, say that he was sitting next to Donald Trump, and Donald Trump did not trash Milwaukee. He never did that, because, if Donald Trump trashes Milwaukee, there's some possibility that people in the city of Milwaukee, where I lived and worked, I worked on, 93 FM in Milwaukee, did the morning show. It's a friendly city. It's a fabulous city. It's a great city by a great lake. A little cold, a little chilly. But the people are wonderful. And so there's this small possibility that if you trash Milwaukee, maybe the people of Milwaukee, they don't vote for you. Do you know what I'm saying? And what did Joe Biden win Wisconsin by in 2020? I'm saying like 12,000 votes. Do you know what I'm saying? It's so they had to deny. So Mike Johnson and this whole host of creatures who claim to be holier than thou are lying for Donald Trump. They are literally covering up. And idiot boy, that is Donald Trump, is asked about it himself.
Democrats are also hitting you on this comment that you made about Milwaukee, the host city for the RNC, for the convention, and they seem to believe that you said that it was a horrible city. Can you just nip us in the bud and clarify what you meant?
Well, I think it was very clear what I meant. I said we're very concerned with crime.
So he did say it. So he did say it. I think it was very clear what I said. First of all, I did check the crime stats in Milwaukee, and just like every other blue state city, just like every other burb, just like every other geographical point in the United States, homicide rates are down by like 40%. Murders are down, murder, homicide, all of it down by like massive, massive numbers. Okay. Nationally, murders are down by 26%. In Milwaukee, murders are down by 39%. Property crime in Milwaukee, property crime is down by 20%, and theft of vehicles are down by 10%. So I don't know. I think he just hates Milwaukee. And why would that be? Somebody look at the demographics of the city of Milwaukee. In fact, somebody look at the demographics of any city in this country. See, I think, and I could be wrong, but I think Donald Trump is like hating on people in this veiled way where he says something bad about, cities. Yeah, I think we all know what he means. I think we do. So it's just so amazing to me, not that Donald Trump trashed Milwaukee because, it's got a good-sized African-American population. No, it's not that. It's that these holier-than-thou sycophants, these Republicans who are supposed to be, the people of decency and law and order and truth-telling and, that they lie for him over and over and over. When you look at Mitch McConnell, who ate his soul in front of you yet again, what was left of his soul this week when he said he couldn't say Donald Trump's name. He couldn't make himself say the name, but he endorsed him. He said, whoever the nominee is, when the Capitol was attacked, I said it was, his fault, but I also said I would endorse whoever the Republican nominee is, and it's him. And so I'm endorsing him. I mean, it's pretty amazing, right? It's pretty amazing. But anyway, what you really need to have happen in light of the whole thought process that's going on in this whole first hour, to bring it back to the beginning, is when corporate America actually turns on this particular nominee, when corporate America says he's just too unhinged, he's too deranged, he's too scattered, he's too meandering, he makes no sense. I don't trust him with the keys to the country. I don't. And not because of national security, but because of taxation, because of agency regulation, because they don't trust him to do anything he says he's going to do except to keep himself out of prison. When the big money leaves Donald Trump, that's when things actually shift. That's when things change, okay? So here's Donald Trump.
We have to get elected. We have to take this beautiful place, and we have to make it really something very special. Again, right now it's not special. Right now it's being scorned and being used as an example of when they look at the crime on the streets, when they look at all of the problems that we have, they're using us as a bad example of the...
Okay, I'm just going to rerun this just ever so slightly, just like maybe 10 seconds earlier. I want you to watch this guy here. This is Roger Marshall. He's a senator from Kansas, okay? I want you to watch him when Donald Trump says crime is up, okay? I just want you to see him like looking up to, like, no, that's not true. No, that's wrong.
Really something very special. Again, right now it's not special. Right now it's being scorned and being used as an example of when they look at the crime on the streets, when they look at all of the problems that we have, they're using us as a bad example of democracy. And they're getting away with murder, and we're not going to let it happen. So I just want to thank you for coming, and I want to thank everybody here. You're all either elected or you're going to be elected again and reelected.
So here's what the CEOs had to say, okay?
I will say I was surprised. I spoke to a number of CEOs who I would say walked into the meeting being Trump supporter-ish or thinking that they might be leaning that direction, who said that he was remarkably meandering, could not keep a straight thought, was all over the map, and that they, which may be not surprising, but was interesting to me because these were people who I think might have been actually predisposed to him and actually walked out of the room less predisposed to him, actually predisposed to thinking this is not necessarily, as one person said, this may not be any different or better than a Biden thought if you're thinking that way.
So the CEOs who may have been Trump-ish, Trump-adjacent, open to Trump, flirting with Trumpism, flirting with giving him the keys to the kingdom, allowing him to control regulation, allowing him to be in charge of the agencies, allowing him to, they're like, no, he's deranged. He's a trash human being. We all knew that, but he's actually deranged at this point in his life. And it makes me want to say happy 78th birthday to you, old man. Happy 78th birthday. Today is Donald Trump's 78th birthday. Joe Biden's 81. Donald Trump's 78. He would be 79 if he entered the White House. Joe Biden is in the White House. He's 81 and he's doing an amazing job. Incredible, actually. Fill up your tank lately? $3.19, everybody, is the best oil trader you ever saw come down the pike, that man. He dumped all of these millions of barrels from the Strategic Petroleum Reserve into the marketplace at $95 and took what they had over there in OPEC, took what they had and made it almost worthless. And then bought it back to replenish our supply at the low bargain basement price of $65, thereby earning, and this is the fun part, earning America a profit of $500 billion. That sucks. Donald Trump, on the other hand, $2 trillion on the deficit, $2 trillion on our backs, $2 trillion to give the very wealthy another tax cut that they could then say was worth all of this chaos, was worth all of this violence, was worth all of this crazy 4 years that we spent waking up every morning to news that was coming at us like a fire hose. I mean, and I got a feeling that they're looking at this now. Yes, the Supreme Court's going to do their bidding. There's no doubt. The Supreme Court's bought and paid for. We know that. It's sad. But the court's been captured, and the court's been captured by billionaires. Billionaires. However, the presidency is still in play. And the amount of propaganda that is being driven towards making you think that Joe Biden is the feeble one, making you think Joe Biden is the one who wanders off. Oh, what happens when you open up the shot, when you actually widen the lens.
Mary had a little man.
The fault. We believe that all men are created
equal.
To the magnificent mosaic that is America.
From radio beacon to radio beacon. I have a dream today. Change has come to America.
Believe me.
Help is on the way.
Knock, knock. Who's there?
It's a figment of your imagination.
Randi Rhodes Show.
Turn up your mind.
Andrew, more takeaways from Trump's meeting with business leaders. What was the reception like?
Well, it was interesting. I spoke to a number of the CEOs who were at that meeting yesterday, a number of whom, frankly, had been predisposed to President Trump, in fact, former President Trump. And they walked away from that meeting, I think, a bit disheartened, a bit questioning, I don't want to say his mental fitness, but questioning just how meandering, how in some cases one said to me he could not keep a thought straight. He would go in one direction and then he'd go in another direction, and that there wasn't really necessarily a through line to the way he spoke or what even he was talking about. At one point, and you described it earlier, he discussed his plans to bring the tax rate down from the corporate tax rate down from 21% to 20%. And apparently, at some point in the meeting, was asked about why he had chosen 20%, and he said, "Well, it's a round number." And I think that unto itself had a number of CEOs shaking their head, given that 1% of the total tax burden on the country is actually a huge number in terms of what is needed to support the revenue for this country.
So other sources reported that Some were kind and just said he's rambling. Others said he was unhinged. Others said it was like talking to your drunk uncle. Okay. I think Stephen King said that Trump is like when your drunk uncle has that third drink. I think we all know what he's talking about when he says that. The Financial Times, the New York Times, the Washington Post, CNBC, just sources everywhere are saying that, the lawmakers who attended the meeting, the people who are lying for him, actually, the entire GOP House conference was at that meeting. They all said, I don't know what to do. We have to cover up the fact that he trashed Milwaukee. He's talking about round numbers for tax cuts based in absolutely nothing. There's no, we can't let the American people know how deranged he's become. Now, what people do know is what he's saying in public. What people do hear is Donald Trump saying things like retribution and revenge and, political prosecution. And maybe it has to happen to them, because he's being held accountable for his law breaking. He's being held accountable for his fraud. He's being held accountable for business fraud. He's being held criminally accountable for 34 felonies, right? A jury of his peers who all live in New York. That's where he is. That's where he lives. That's where he's chosen to live. That's where he's done business his whole entire life. So that is a jury of his peers found him guilty of 34 felonies, right? And so all of a sudden, he's just talking about revenge, getting revenge against people who haven't broken any laws. None. People who won't even pardon their own son, who's struggling with something almost every American knows about, and that's drug addiction. And so you've got this propaganda effort underway by right-wing news networks in order to keep the news under wraps about who really is unfit to serve as president. So I want to show you something, okay? This is a very desperate move by Rupert Murdoch's Fox News, okay? They decided that they were going to show Biden at the G7 summit, and apparently at the G7 summit, they had what they're calling a skydiving exhibition, okay? And so they had 7 skydivers, each one carrying a flag of one of the G7 countries. So you had France and Italy and the United States and blah, blah. And so all the leaders of these G7 countries are standing there, the UK, France, the EU, all standing. And the skydivers are coming down and landing. But they didn't jump at the same time, and they're not landing at the same time. For me, I've seen like really amazing skydiving crap. I've seen it. I used to dive, okay? I used to do it. When I lived in Texas, I did it for fun. And I've seen people, do amazing things with their bodies in the sky, I know you have to bend your legs and you have to bend to keep you from shooting across the sky, okay? Just so you don't doubt me. But this was not that great. Anyway, whatever it was. And so the divers are landing at different spots and at different times. Fox News decides to crop the screen, to crop the shot, and only include one skydiver and make it look as if Biden was wandering off where one skydiver had landed, and that was it. That was the end of the exhibition. And poor Joe was so disoriented that he just sort of wandered off. Here you go. That's van der Leyen. She's the EU president, right? There's Biden. See, you could see the parachute. But he's giving a thumbs up to another diver, okay, to another skydiver. And this is, I think her name's Melanie Maloney. She's the prime minister of Italy. I love her outfit, gotta say. Love her outfit. But she's making it seem as if Joe Biden doesn't know where he is. Okay. I'm going to, open the shot now and show you where Joe Biden was going, okay? So here you see the French skydiver. And there's Joe Biden. Bravo. And he walks over to the French skydiver to shake his hand. that doesn't suit the narrative, see? So they have to keep on playing this thing and tweeting it out and putting it on Instagram and putting it on TikTok. That poor Joe Biden is so disoriented. He doesn't know where he is. And that is bullcrap. But I will show you Trump wandering off. I don't know if he had to take a poop or dump. I don't know what his deal was. But there was a thing when he was in the White House, and it happened a lot of times. But I'll just play you this one. Make it nice and quick, okay?
Mr. President, one more question about the inauguration. Thank you very much.
Anything on Bill Barr, sir?
Congratulations, sir. He's gone.
He had just presented the president. I don't know if that's the Presidential Medal of Freedom. I'm guessing it is. And this man, who was the recipient, was standing in the Oval with his entire family, which is rather huge. And Donald Trump just said, "Thank you very much," and wandered on off and left the guy standing there. Do you remember this? I think you do. But the propaganda, the narrative that they want to, drill into people's heads isn't that Donald Trump is unhinged, that the CEOs are saying he's like talking to your drunk uncle, that there's no through line in anything he discusses, that he's just a rambling idiot, that he's completely lost. He doesn't know what he's saying. He's pulling numbers out of his, I don't even want to say his butt because that is just too disgusting, that he's pulling numbers out of the sky and making crap up, has no idea what his policies are or will be or what he would do. All he knows is he has to win because he can't go to prison. And the CEOs are starting to make a little noise about that. And when the money leaves Donald Trump in the lurch like that, maybe the propaganda will change. But for now, it is what it is. And I just needed for you to know that this thing that you're seeing circulating is debunkable by the actual footage of what happened during the exhibition of skydivers in the G7 field there. He didn't wander off. He saw other skydivers landing and saw everybody, applauding the one. He saw 6 more yet to land, and he walked in their direction. Once they landed, he started shaking their hand. The French skydiver saluted him. I don't even know if that's allowed. Why? I guess we're an ally. I mean, it's like no harm, no foul, but I wouldn't salute Prime Minister Maloney or whatever her freaking right-wing name is. I don't know.
All things Randy at RandyRhodes.com.
Go for launch.
Speaking truth to power, The Randy Rhodes Show.
All right, here's a real wide shot, okay, of the other skydivers landing. Joe Biden standing there watching them land. See, there they are in the sky. There's a whole bunch. There's the French one. See the French flag right there? That's Italy over here. That's what it is. Yeah, and, listen, if Joe Biden was so feeble, why do they have to make crap up? Why can't they just show him the way we just showed Donald Trump? Why can't they just do that? Okay? They can't because he's not feeble. Okay? He's an older guy, obviously. The difference in age between the two is like 3 years. And Trump is gone. He's literally back crap. He's literally lost his way, lost his crap.
To make Biden feeble, you need a video production editor and some software and a little bit of time. To make Trump look feeble and not fit, you just have to buy a ticket to a rally. That's all you got to do.
Or show it, or just point a camera at him and stand back and watch the fun. It's like he is just, let me tell you what, when he was first running for president, do you remember how he was talking about fentanyl and addiction and how he was going to, do something about it, and he understood, and it was, America was dying, and he understood what to do about it, and he was going to, and the numbers got worse. They got worse and worse and worse and worse, okay? He never built a wall. Everything he said he was going to do about it. You want to hear what his advice now is? Because Sean Hannity asked, was it Sean Hannity? I think it was maybe the wrestling show he decided to do. You know, he goes to all these, podcasters or he invites them into Magaloco. I think this is him sitting in Magaloco. I don't think this was their studio. I think this was his house. And he invited these, what do you call those fighters? I don't watch that stuff.
Like cage fighters or MMA?
Yeah. And maybe you'll recognize these guys. I don't know. But they asked him about addiction, okay?
I say the way you stay away, just don't drink. Just don't have it. If you don't have drugs, if you don't experience early on, you're not going to have a need for it. You're not going to have an addiction. If you don't drink alcohol, you're not going to have an addiction. You're not going to have this insatiable urge to have a drink. And I say that to people. With your children, they ask me, what do you think of children? What do you tell them? I say, no drugs, no alcohol. I also say no cigarettes. Don't have the cigarettes. Don't have cigarettes. Don't have them. I have friends that can't stop smoking. If they never had a cigarette before, they'd have no problem. When I look at a friend that can't stop smoking, I don't understand why it's hard to stop. You know, the smoke all over the place. The fact is, if you never had a cigarette, I never had a cigarette. I have no urge to smoke. But if you are, you get addicted. It has something, and you just can't stop.
It has something, you see. This is the man that wants to be the leader of the free world. This is like talking to your crazy drunk uncle, okay? We're back to just say no. You understand that that's the message there, right? Just say no. Just say no to fentanyl. Just say no to oxy. Just say no to heroin. Just say no to all of it. Just say no. Say no to cigarettes. Say no to vaping. Whatever. Just say no. This is his policy because he doesn't have any. He doesn't have a policy. It's the same with abortion, okay? He doesn't have a policy. It's like, it's a beautiful thing to watch when he's talking to this group over there and then that group over there. No, they went too far over there. They're going to have to fix it. Nobody knows because he is desperate. He's a desperate man trying to get the protection of the Oval Office, the protection of the presidency and presidential immunity around him because he is a criminal. He's a criminal. And you can legitimately say that now. God, it's really raining in here. Do you hear that? It's pouring in my studio. I mean, what could go wrong? I mean, I only have all these, stage lights here in the ceiling. Electrocution? Anybody? Some people out there hoping. But
if it happens live, we'll certainly have an airtight claim.
Yeah, but, if I had time to promote it, we could get a 30 share. You know what I'm saying? I don't have time to promote it.
I mean, we can make it a running thing. Keep watching.
Keep watching to see if I'll get electrocuted.
Yeah, we won't fix it. We won't do any maintenance. Just keep watching. Let's see when it collapses.
So anyway, I just want to show you how the fix is really in against Joe Biden. Okay, so you know that all the local newspapers have pretty much rolled up and died, right? There's a very few local newspapers left who, still print every single day. And there's very few local television stations that are still, doing their thing. Because the internet and Instagram and social media and, corporate have replaced. So wherever there may have been local, wherever there may have been, a locally owned and operated television station, it's just like radio now, they've all gone the way of corporate ownership. And one of the bigger groups that bought 200 news stations is Sinclair Broadcasting. And they are uber right wing, like crazy, but they're also about dictating the news. They make it up. What do I mean? Well, you know how Donald Trump likes to say CNN is fake news. Well, if you went to a person in CNN and asked them if any of their bosses, if any of their editors, if any of their vice presidents of content or ever told them what to report or what to write in a script, they would all to a person. And I know this because I worked in corporate, and as ridiculously horrendous as working in corporate can be, they never ever tell you ever what to say. They never give you your opinion. They never write a script for you. They never ever do. The only thing that they ever made me do was apologize for doing stand-up comedy. They literally made me do that. Sinclair, at the very top of the company, has executives, corporate guys, and they write the scripts. And you've seen this before. In 2018, they got caught doing this, where every single one of the anchors, every single one of the reporters at every single one of their 200 local news stations were all caught saying the same damn thing because the script was written in a corporate office and given to them. It's happened again. This time the corporate script says that Biden is feeble, that Biden, it could cost him the election, that Biden just isn't, he's not with it, okay? He doesn't have it. And I'm just going to play you like maybe under 2 minutes of this was a 6-minute mashup, what they call a supercut, of all the people that worked at all the Sinclair outlets saying the same thing over and over and over and over. Why? Because it was put into their teleprompters, because it was written by corporate. It was written upstairs. Are you telling me I don't have time?
Yeah, we're just about to hit the break.
Okay, so I'll wait till the other side of the break. But I'll play it for you, okay? There's a 6-minute supercut of it. There's a 1-minute cut of it that I made. And then there's a 2-minute cut of it that I made. Off of a 6-minute cut that Aaron Rupar made, okay? This man is he's so reliable. I love Aaron. I really do. I really respect him. To do this kind of work is a real heavy lift, but he did it. And you can see now that based off a really poorly sourced editorial in the Wall Street Journal that said that Biden couldn't be prosecuted because he couldn't remember things, which has been debunked 8 ways to Sunday. They keep on repeating this one article and this one reporter who is relying on this one opinion piece, okay? This is why the House wanted to impeach Garland.
Call in, connect.
Yes.
To speak to Randy, call 561-270-3844. 561-270-3844.
All right, everybody, this is it. This is the last time I will ask. This is the last ask of the day. It is a triple match day at Free Speech TV for the Summer Pledge Drive. Today is the last day of the Summer Pledge Drive, and it's a triple match day. What does that mean? Well, for people like Greg in North Carolina who can't figure that out, I'll explain. You think you're so smart, don't you, Greg? You're never getting on the air, ever. It gives me such joy to do this to you. Okay, so what it is that you have 3 frontline funders, 3 of them standing by to hear whatever it is you want to donate, whether it's $10 or $50, whatever it is. 3 of them will match. So you have $50 matched by one person, $50 matched by 2 people to make it $150, and $50 by the third person. See what I mean? And it exponentially gets bigger. So $50 becomes $200 to Free Speech TV. And that's a beautiful thing. So last time I'm going to ask, last day of the pledge drive for the summer, call 877-378-8669. And even if you did $1, it would be $4, okay? So please make use of these frontline funders. I would hate to see their cash be left upon the table. That would be a sin, or a shanda, if you will, if you must, if you may. Okay? Visit us at freespeech.org. That works as well. And the text, 44321 is the text number. Put in the letters FSTV on your phone, and we'll send you a secure link, and you could do it that way. Thank you so much for making the Summer Pledge Drive a success. I feel very certain that today is going to be a banner day. I know that you guys have been waiting for the triple match day. It is here. This is it. Go for it. Chris in Arizona.
Hey, Randy.
Hi.
Isn't there something in their fairy tale about bearing false witness? But whatever.
Yes.
Me, when my imaginary boat goes down, you know what I'm afraid of? Drowning.
Yeah. I mean, I'm telling you, look, if I could promote the day that I'm going to get electrocuted by, this flood that's happening where I need an ark, obviously, but it shouldn't be, it's not really happening because the governor of Florida has outlawed global warming. He's outlawed floods. He's outlawed climate. But, when you think about what Trump was just talking about, and he was saying, if he had a choice between the electrocution or the shark, well, the sharks are now swimming in the streets. So I do have a choice. I could stay here and be electrocuted, or I could go out in the street and be eaten by a shark.
Well, listen. Back to their fairy tale. Watch out for locusts.
Yeah,
but
I will.
Doesn't that moron own a hotel in Las Vegas?
Yes.
And he had his rubes out in 110-degree heat.
And they went out there and didn't even say to him, "Why aren't we inside in one of your convention spaces?"
It's just so dumb. But you were talking about those business owners, and Ross Perot popped into my head. How are we going to reach the fringe people that we really need to reach? The 15,000 spread amongst 3 states. We need to put it in black and white. Put out, basically write out his shark statement, and write Joe Biden's statement about his son side by side, and say, moron, pit between the two, please. For the love of Mike, have your beer, Randy. I love you. It's been a long time since I called.
Oh, well,
I
thanks.
switched to Zona, so my vote counts, baby.
Thank you. Great to hear from you.
Bye
Thank
now.
you, Chris. Bye. That was good. All right, so I digress. I was going to play you the Sinclair, from corporate on down. This is shocking. This is disgusting. But again, if you didn't have Trump talking about sharks and boats with batteries electrocuting you, which is crazy because boats have batteries, then all you would have is Joe Biden doing the presidential things that Joe Biden does, like forgive student loan debt, like pass the Inflation Reduction Act, like give child tax credit to every American who, qualified, to the point where we took half of our children out of poverty. Okay, ended a pandemic. The list is long and it's important. It's not just, feeble stuff like, oh, we'll ban bump stocks, and then the Supreme Court can overturn the ban because the Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms Agency doesn't have the power to use its expertise to declare that bump stocks actually turn a semi-automatic weapon into a machine gun. Right. Okay, great. So Sinclair, which is this right-wing organization that bought up every single, the same thing happened in radio, okay? So I know exactly how this feels, sounds, looks, smells, and tastes, except I've never, ever seen corporate insert themselves into your script, okay? That I've never seen. But Sinclair is doing it, and here's an example of what I'm talking about.
The Wall Street Journal calling into question.
The Wall Street Journal has published a story. The Wall Street Journal is out with new reporting.
Calling into question the mental fitness of President Joe Biden.
Calling into question the mental fitness of President Biden.
President Joe Biden's mental fitness being questioned once again.
As national correspondent Matt Galka tells us, the issue could be an election decider. As national correspondent Matt Galka tells us, the issue could be an election decider. As national correspondent Matt Galka tells us, the issue could be an election decider.
But could it be an election decider?
Oh, I like his little riff on the script. Could it be? I'll make it a question. I'll make it my own. Could it be an election decider? Okay, that's 30 seconds of what went on there, okay? It went on and on.
The mental fitness of President Biden into question.
Your bow tie makes me question yours.
Tells us the issue could be an election decider.
Should he be on that or any ballot? The Wall Street Journal is out with new reporting calling into question the mental fitness of President Joe Biden. As national correspondent Matt Galka tells us, the issue could be an election decider.
As the Wall Street Journal is out with reporting calling into question the mental fitness of President Biden. We want to know, are you worried about President Biden's mental fitness? As national correspondent Matt Galka tells us, the issue could be an election decider.
As the Wall Street Journal is out with new reporting calling into question the mental fitness of President Joe Biden.
And as national correspondent Matt Galka tells us, the issue could be an election decider.
Lawmakers think this can be an election decider.
The Wall Street Journal is out with reporting calling into question the mental fitness of President Joe Biden. As national correspondent Matt Galka tells us, the issue could be an election decider.
She shops at Macy's.
The November election just 3 months away, and President Joe Biden's mental fitness being questioned once again. According to a Wall Street Journal report, members in both political parties have serious concerns about his cognitive ability. National correspondent Matt Galka has more on those concerns.
The Wall Street Journal is out
with reporting, calling into question the mental fitness of President Joe Biden. As national correspondent Matt Galka tells us, the issue could be an election decider.
The Wall Street Journal is out with reporting calling into question the mental fitness of President Joe Biden. As national correspondent Matt Galka tells us, the issue could be an election decider.
Recent reports from the Wall Street Journal are calling into question the mental fitness of President Joe Biden. As national correspondent Matt Galka tells us, the issue could be an election decider.
In other news tonight, the Wall Street Journal is out with reporting calling into question the mental fitness of President Joe Biden. As national correspondent Matt Galka tells us, the issue could be an election decider.
I like the way some of them try to make it their own thought. It's not their thought, it's corporate's thought that was put into their, but they're trying to make it their own. Like the one guy who was really, really doing his very best Sean Hannity impression, that guy there. Yeah, he's sort of a Shepard Smith wannabe, never will be. And then the girl with the big comb over there, she was pretty. And then the other one, the one that looked like a child bride, she shops at Macy's. How do I know that? I have that top. I have that same.
You mean Propaganda Bot? She was very entertaining.
Wasn't she? I like the fake lashes. It's the same as from Texas. Crockett, Jasmine Crockett's lashes, right? Where's Marjorie Taylor Greene yelling at her for those lashes? No, but I like the way they tried to make it their own thoughts. And then throw to a package, Matt Gelka.
This is the Randi Rhodes Show. To speak with Randy, dial 561-270-3844. That's 561-270-3844.
Yeah, why would we let the Food and Drug Administration have control over food and drugs? Why would we let the CDC, the Center for Disease Control, actually have, health policy under their umbrella when we have senators like John Kennedy from Louisiana?
Should the mother, at that juncture, have the right, clearly a viable child, to abort the child? My example is not unrealistic.
I think that
if your answer, I'm going to save my time. If your answer is going to be that never happens, let me go to Ms. Fry. What do you think?
Well, Senator, first of all, if you don't ask a question if you don't want to know the answer, and I think 1%. But I'm saying to you, Senator, 1% of abortions happen at 21 weeks or later. Mm-hmm. So I think the premise of your question sets up a conversation about abortion that is unfair. It is rarely is that ever the instance. The vast majority of pregnancies and abortions that are considered late in a pregnancy have to do with severe, devastating medical circumstances. And I understand your point, Senator. I understand your point. But with all due respect, I also think the chances of people sort of getting all the way through a pregnancy and just sort of saying, I don't want it, is disrespectful to women.
Thank you, Dr. Fry. I mean, the way she manipulated him was just so, it was stunning. It was beautiful. It was kind. It was gentle. She didn't want to shock him into reality, because that would be like electrocution for John Kennedy, who toils in and lives inside of a bubble that says that women are murderers and that we must do something to stop the murder of their children as they're giving birth and they're changing their minds, which doesn't happen. And he's sitting there and he's saying, look, if you're going to tell me, Foghorn Leghorn over here, that never happens, well, I'm going to go to somebody else. I'm going to ask somebody, which is really, the whole accent thing and this whole, stupider than thou kind of, routine. He used to not have that accent, okay? He used to talk perfect middle country English until he became a senator from Louisiana. And all of a sudden he was like, I say, son, why do you do me like you do? I say, you look like 10 miles of bad road. Like, when did this happen to him? I guess when he realized that people will vote for a guy like that and not vote for who he really is. A guy who understands that women don't murder their children with the help of a doctor and an entire surgical team in an OR. And what does he really think is happening in our hospitals? What, it's like all of a sudden, I mean, it's like a murder takes place every day in at JFK or at Delray Medical? I mean, what is wrong with people? Do you really think that as a person, as a woman, I could actually say during my delivery, while my feet were in the stirrups and the crown of the head was, I changed my mind and the doctor would say, oh, no problem. No problem. And the nurses too? I mean, what is wrong with him? Nothing. He's faking it. Like every outraged human being who wants to dictate what we should be doing with our medical lives, what we should be doing with our bodies. Everybody's got a very, very deep, deep, deep opinion about it. Until it's them, you know. And then everything changes, right? The reality of it all is like, wow, I did not know that. Kathleen in Illinois.
Hi, Randy. The reason that I was calling is because of your military perspective. And I wanted to ask you, as far as the Hunter Biden case, the fact that post-traumatic stress impacts family members as well as those who died. And the fact that his brother was taken away from him so at such a young age, and that kind of is what caused him then to fall back temporarily into addiction and that. And, you know, the role that that plays as far as the fact that they didn't look into the whole thing, but they just, the letter of the law, rather than recognizing what had happened that caused him to end up briefly
that decision is the prosecutor's decision. That is not a decision for the jury. The jury can only try the facts that are presented to them and then, you know, match those facts to the law that's presented to them. And they had to come up with the only conclusion that they could come up with is that he did the thing. He did do it. As far as, you know, who gets to decide whether or not his addiction you know, has been slayed or conquered, or that he works really hard at it each and every day, and that this was a waste of taxpayer money to bring this case, whatever. That's a prosecutor's decision. That has nothing to do with the jury. But, you know, the idea that, you know, they had entered into a plea agreement, right, in front of the same judge that tried this case. And she said, I'm not accepting the terms of the plea agreement because the prosecutor, Mr. Weiss, who was Trump appointed, said
exactly.
Right. He didn't really want to prosecute this case. He didn't.
Right.
But he said that, you know, he would enter into a plea agreement for a diversion therapy, you know, whatever. And the judge said, I'm not going to oversee that. I don't want to be responsible for that. And the other part of it was the prosecutor couldn't assert to the judge that he was done investigating Hunter Biden. And so she said, well, if you're not done, then why are we entering into a plea agreement to, you know, capture all of his wrongdoing? You know, like, why are you doing? And he had no answer because he's a Trump appointed prosecutor. He actually basically sucked at his job and got popped by the judge. And so they had to try it. And that's what happened. But addiction is, you know, one of the greatest struggles that American families will deal with. And they will.
Well, that's right. And it's especially because of his brother being like a North Star to him and being taken away from him that way, and the impact it has, and how addiction impacts.
Well, I think he was using drugs before Bo died. So I don't know that, you know, that made him, you know, turn to crack. But I think he was a crackhead for a really long time. And I don't, you know, you have to understand what his trauma really is. It's not just that he lost Bo, okay, which was horrendous, okay. But when he was a little kid, and most addicts will tell you that the story of trauma is the one that haunts them. When he was a little boy, he was in a horrible car accident. He lost his mother. He lost his sister. I think Hunter had like every bone in his body was broken. And I honestly, I mean, how could you not understand the kind of trauma that, you know, a person goes through in their life that leads them to be this out of control? But how could you not like admire him at this point for being sober for 5 years. I don't know how he does it, but he does.
Right. And it's the fact that he's being used as a political weapon. That has been.
That's disgusting. That is the that ought to, every single person that was looking at Donald Trump to talk about in a meaningful way addiction, to talk about depths of despair in this country, to talk about pill mills or oxy or fentanyl or any of the things that they look to Donald Trump to figure out and solve for them. They should all listen to his policy, which is just say no, and no understanding at all about childhood trauma, and no understanding at all about not prosecuting somebody who's been clean and sober for 5 years for having a gun for 11 days and throwing it in the trash.
Nobody wants to be addicted, including Rush Limbaugh, who was addicted.
Yeah, he was. He made himself deaf.
So it's not like, it's not like we want to be addicted. So.
No, he was. He was.
Yeah.
I worked after him every single day during that period in his life. And, listen, he made himself go deaf. And he was on the radio taking calls, okay?
Right.
Yeah. And so, yes. And so they actually got a court reporter for him to transcribe the calls. I mean, can you imagine? Now, if that were me, I'd be so fired so fast, right? But he was a moneymaker, so, not that I wasn't, but they just loved the corporate screed that he would preach to Americans every day, and the racism and all of it. I mean, he was a valued racist in the corporate world. I used to spend my whole day debunking him. That was the whole day. 4 hours I used to work after him. 4 hours, 4-hour shows. And you could just spend every minute of every day debunking all the lies that were told. But he was on 3 and 4 of the same, like different radio stations in the same market. Like you would turn the channel and it would still be him. That's what they do.